Okay, let's unpack this. Today's deep dive is based on a really fascinating set of sources.
They're philosophical discussions, spiritual, really,
Yeah.
all drawn from the teachings of Koji Tsuru and Akira Tsuru.
And they all center on one massive resonant concept, unconditional love.
Right, but these texts don't just, define the term. They try to give you a blueprint for how to actually experience it.
And they contrast it so sharply with the kind of emotional love most of us are chasing every day.
Yeah.
I was really struck by the opening context. The author we're looking at talks about how the concept God is unconditional love just. It hit them with so much more power than, say, the phrase God is light.
And what's important there is the feeling of aspiration. God is light is kind of a static description.
Right.
But unconditional love, or UCL, that felt like, and this is a quote, the goal we should aim for.
Yeah.
It's all dynamic. It's at the highest possible summit for human experience.
Exactly. But here's the problem that, instantly comes up for you, the listener, and frankly for everyone. We pursue love, this intense, romantic, life-altering love, and that emotional high, it feels absolute. But inevitably, that peak recedes. It always does.
And that leads to that classic moment of self-doubt. Is the love gone?
Did I make a mistake? Am I bored?
And the sources are very clear here that receding feeling is not a failure. It's not a failure of the relationship or your heart. It's actually a critical gateway.
So our mission today is to dive deep into that specific moment, that moment of recession.
Yeah.
We need to clearly distinguish between that emotional roller coaster,
Which we're going to call conditional love.
right? Conditional love,
Yeah.
and the deeper, more enduring unconditional love that these texts claim you are already the recipient of
Yeah.
and the embodiment of.
So let's look closely at that emotional peak. We've all felt it, right? The sheer exhilaration of falling in love.
Oh, absolutely.
That feeling the sources describe so beautifully as soul exaltation or the splendor of love.
It feels like the entire universe is aligned. It's perfect, it's overwhelming, and in that moment you really believe it's going to last forever.
But what's fascinating is how precisely the sources describe the process that follows that peak.
The come down.
Exactly. They use a wonderful Japanese phrase, hikinami no gotoku, which means like a receding tide. That peak, by its very nature, has to fall away. It's a pattern.
And that trough that follows can be just excruciating. You look at the person you thought was the one, and suddenly you feel something less.
Boredom, maybe anxiety, you hit what's called the kantaiki.
The doldrums, the boredom phase.
That's it. And that confusion, that fear that the love has just vanished, it comes from misidentifying the peak experience in the first place.
So what was the peak then?
That peak is defined as conditional love, or what the source material calls 3D love,
Okay, 3D love. Why 3D?
because it's fundamentally dependent on circumstances, on actions, on the external world, the three dimensions we live in.
So I love you because you do X, Y, or Z.
Precisely. If I love you because you make me feel special or because you compliment me, that feeling is attached to the action. It's attached to the condition.
So if the partner stops doing the thing, the feeling of love just vanishes.
It's a transaction.
Wow.
The love is conditional because if the source of that feeling, the partner, or their behavior disappears or changes, the intense feeling disappears too. It exists in a dualistic world,
Liking and disliking.
constantly swinging. If you like someone for giving you a gift, the moment they disappoint you, that pendulum just swings violently into dislike. It's a constant oscillation.
And what the authors are suggesting here is that understanding this constant swinging, realizing the difference between conditional love and unconditional love, that is one of the most fundamental themes of human life,
It's the whole lesson, the entire game we're here to learn.
which is a huge claim.
It is. And that realization immediately shifts the focus. If that peak of romance is temporary, what was its purpose?
Right.
And that leads us directly to the core shift, moving from looking outward for love to recognizing the love that's already within.
That's a powerful transition because if the emotional peak isn't the destination, then it must be some kind of mechanism.
It's a trigger. That's the word the sources use, a trigger.
A trigger for what?
It's the spark that helps you touch the deep inherent love that was always inside of you. That emotional high you felt wasn't something the other person manufactured and delivered to you.
They were just the catalyst.
They were just a catalyst for something you already owned.
That is a massive redefinition of self. If we connect this to the bigger picture, then unconditional love is described as you yourself.
It needs no external person for you to feel it. Others just exist to help you remember this fundamental truth about yourself.
And this process of remembering who you are, that's what they call the life game.
Right. And the key to winning that game is to shift your role, to become the observer.
Okay, let's unpack that observer role, because this is where we usually get trapped, right?
This is the trap.
The human essence is the observer, not the actor, not the judge assigning meaning to everything.
Think about that classic scenario from the text. Your boyfriend or girlfriend calls you every single day at 7 p.m. It's routine. It's nice, but it's expected. Then suddenly, the calls drop to once every 3 days.
The natural human reaction, the ego's reaction, is instant panic.
And narrative creation. He's pulling away. She found someone else. I did something wrong.
We're assigning all this terrible meaning to what is, objectively, just a neutral change in external events.
We turn into a puppet of the external world. Our internal state is completely dependent on whether that phone rings at the right time.
But the deeper truth is... what?
The liberated truth is to simply observe the change, the frequency of the call shifted, without assigning that whole emotional narrative of drama and despair.
And what the sources point out here is amazing. A sudden, unexpected, spontaneous call brings way more joy than the routine one.
Exactly.
Precisely because you weren't anxiously expecting it or demanding it. The joy came from inside you, from your own surprise, not from the delivery of the call itself.
And if you can stop allowing yourself to be manipulated by these external circumstances, the heart shifts from being that puppet to being the creator of your reality.
Your joy and love isn't something your partner carries into you.
It's something you draw forth from within yourself, by your own choice of observation. That is real freedom.
It changes the entire paradigm of a relationship then. It's not two people conditionally validating each other anymore.
No, it's two sovereign beings who are already whole, just choosing to observe and share their wholeness.
Which brings us back to the Kentucky, that boredom phase.
It does. We have to address it again.
Because it feels like the end of the line. If I'm not getting that rush that high, something must be broken. But you said we can reframe it. How?
By understanding the boredom phase as simply a passing point for evolution. If you see it that way, you can embrace it with, like, an intellectual excitement instead of emotional dread.
So what does that evolution look like?
Well, initially, your happiness requires the partner's physical presence or their attention. You're conditional.
I need them here to feel okay.
Exactly. But as your heart expands, as you evolve into that observer, you eventually reach a state where you're happy, regardless of where they are or what they're doing.
The conditions for your joy just vanish.
They vanish entirely. The love becomes non-attached.
And according to the texts, the destination of this non-attachment, this evolution, is reaching the neutral point.
Yeah, and this is what they equate to the summit of enlightenment. They use terms like satori or nirvana. It's the state where the heart no longer rises and falls.
No more peaks and troughs.
The cessation of the dualistic struggle. You simply are. But this raises a huge question, doesn't it?
It does. How did we even get into this struggle in the first place if we are inherently this unconditional love?
The sources trace it all the way back to the beginning.
To birth.
To birth. Unconditional love is rooted in the mother's unconditional love for a newborn. There are zero conditions attached to that child's existence. It's pure acceptance.
But almost immediately, restricted human consciousness, the ego takes root.
And the ego starts getting all this limited conditional wisdom from the outside world. Parents, school, society.
You are good if you get good grades. I will love you if you behave.
And that's what creates this limited, physical, human game.
Yeah.
And the ego's tireless mission to chase those conditional feelings, constantly trying to stay at the peak and avoid the trough.
Okay, here it is. The huge paradox. If the ultimate goal is the neutral point, the summit where your heart doesn't rise or fall, doesn't that just negate the whole experience of being human?
Doesn't sound boring.
It sounds totally inert, like watching a beautiful tree that never actually blooms.
And that is the precise contradiction that makes this material so incredible. If you only aim for that rigid neutrality, the sources say you become that tree with no flowers. But here's the massive twist that reframes everything. The ultimate consciousness, the consciousness of unconditional love, it loves to watch human action, and specifically, the fluctuations of the heart.
Wait, so it's not seeking stillness from us?
Not at all. It views those very fluctuations, the striving, the falling in love, the disappointment, all of it. It views them like beautifully blooming flowers.
The UCL consciousness is the ultimate audience. It's appreciating the show.
The most appreciative audience. So the true liberation is not trying to stop the fluctuations to achieve some rigid neutrality.
The liberation is realizing that my oscillating conditional self.
Is already being observed and loved perfectly, just as it is, like a flower in full fluctuating bloom by the ultimate observer.
We've been trying to edit out the dramatic scenes, but the higher consciousness is just enjoying our entire performance, flaws and all.
Exactly. And that changes everything about why we choose to act in the world.
So that leads to the most critical, counterintuitive message in all of this.
It's the big one. Do not make becoming UCL itself your goal.
Why not? That seems like the goal.
Because that idea that trying to achieve a state is the ego's final, most sophisticated trap. You are already UCL itself.
So if I'm understanding this, the work isn't in the striving, the work is in the acceptance.
That's it, 100%. You don't need to try to achieve this state. The only challenge left is to accept the answer, that you are already seen as a beautiful, perfectly blooming flower by the consciousness of unconditional love.
Even if my current ego, the part of me worried about the phone calls or the boredom, finds itself ugly.
Even then, the observing consciousness sees only absolute beauty.
This shift has to profoundly change our day-to-day motivation. I mean, if I truly accept that I'm already perfect, why would I even bother trying to change?
Because your motivation changes fundamentally. You no longer act from a desire that's rooted in lack.
A desire to change, acquire, or become something better so I can finally feel okay.
You stop trying to manipulate people or reality to complete yourself.
And instead,
your actions stem purely from a simple, genuine preference.
yeah,
I want to spend my time this way. I want to connect with this person.
it's not driven by fear or obligation anymore.
No, it's driven by simple, pure, non-attached desire. You act from preference, not from lack, and you stop seeking validation.
And the result of that total acceptance must be transformative.
It is. This shift in perspective fundamentally changes how you perceive and select experiences. It creates a life that is, in their words, already the most optimal for your evolution.
So you just
Relax. You enjoy whatever happens, the peaks and the troughs, because you know you don't need to control the external world to be whole.
Wow. We started this deep dive with the disappointment of the receding tide of romance.
And we've ended with this spectacular paradox of the fully flowering, fluctuating heart.
The core invitation here is to stop seeing yourself through the eyes of conditionality, through the eyes of lack.
It's the ultimate relief to just trust that your reality, even the hard parts, even the Kentucky, is already a perfect and beautiful expression, unconditionally loved by the ultimate observer.
You are loved because you exist and because you fluctuate.
That's the takeaway.
Okay, so as we close, here is a final provocative thought that's drawn directly from the source material. We talked about how the consciousness of unconditional love loves to watch our human fluctuations. It's the flower show. If you knew that your rising and falling emotions were already being viewed as a beautiful, perfect performance, the sources suggest that once a person truly reaches that neutral point, they might actually choose to re-enter the fluctuations voluntarily.
Not because they're being manipulated by the world or their ego anymore.
No, but as a deliberate, joyful gift, a kind of entertainment, an artistic act for the ultimate unconditional love consciousness that observes them.
Wow.
So if you knew your worst mistakes, your deepest anxieties, and your occasional boredom were merely beautiful, dramatic performances loved unconditionally by the universe, how would you choose to play the rest of your game? That's the question we leave you with today.